When the black helicopter descended onto the golf course of the exclusive club hosting the alumni reunion, every single person there dropped their champagne flutes. The door slid open, and a woman stepped out wearing a designer white dress that cost more than any of the guests' cars. She walked across the perfectly manicured grass as 30 people stared, jaws agape, unable to believe their eyes. It was Valentina Ruiz, the very same girl they had called a loser for 4 years of high school. The same one they had invited to this reunion just to humiliate her one more time. But what none of them knew was that this shy, poor girl who used to bus tables at her parents' cafe was now the owner of a tech empire valued at 800 million euros. And what they least expected was that the real reason for her visit wasn't to flaunt her success, but to collect a debt she'd been waiting 10 years to settle. Because Valentina hadn't forgotten. Valentina never forgot. If you're ready for this story, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. 10 years ago, San Rafael Institute in Marbella was the most exclusive school on the Costa del Sol. Its marble hallways, perfectly manicured gardens, and top-tier sports facilities attracted the children of businessmen, politicians, and celebrities from all over Spain. It was where the country's future elite were molded, where the connections made during recess were worth more than any college degree. Valentina Ruiz didn't belong to that world. She was there thanks to an academic scholarship that covered tuition, but not the extras. Those little details that made the difference between fitting in and being an intruder. She didn't have the designer uniforms the others bought from exclusive boutiques, just a generic version her mom found at a flea market. She didn't have the latest phone, and she didn't get a sports car when she turned 18. She lived in a tiny apartment above the cafe her parents ran in the town center, and every afternoon after class, she'd go downstairs to wipe tables and serve coffee while her classmates partied on yachts or took weekend trips to Paris. She was thin in a way that wasn't elegant, with brown hair always pulled back in a practical ponytail and thick glasses hiding honey-colored eyes no one bothered to notice. She walked through the hallways with hunched shoulders, books clutched to her chest like a shield, trying to take up as little space as possible. She was invisible, or at least, she tried to be. But invisibility was a luxury the school's predators wouldn't grant her. The group tormenting her was led by Patricia Montalvo, the undisputed queen of San Rafael. Patricia was everything Valentina wasn't. Blonde, tall, with a beauty straight out of a magazine and a last name that opened every door in high society. Her father owned a chain of luxury hotels. Her mother was a former model turned influencer before the word even existed. And her boyfriend, Rodrigo Castillo, was captain of the polo team and heir to a real estate fortune spanning 3 generations. Patricia had turned Valentina's life into hell from day one. Not with physical violence, which would have been too vulgar for someone of her standing, but with a refined, constant cruelty that left invisible yet deep wounds. Whispered nicknames loud enough for Valentina to hear, stifled laughs as she walked by, party invites sent by mistake and then withdrawn with fake embarrassment. Comments about her clothes, her hair, her way of speaking, her smell of coffee and poverty. The worst day came during prom. Valentina had saved for months to buy a dress. Nothing spectacular, but decent, something to make her feel normal for one night. She'd spend hours getting ready, borrowed makeup from a neighbor, took off her glasses even though it meant not seeing well. When she arrived at the hall decorated with balloons and lights, for a moment, she felt part of something. Then Patricia took the stage. "We organized a secret vote," she announced with her perfect smile, "to choose the prom king and queen. And we also decided to create a special category, the loser of the year." The laughter started before she even said the name. Valentina knew what was coming before she heard it. When Patricia said her name and a cardboard crown with loser written in glitter dropped onto her head, the world stopped. The guffaws hit like a tsunami. Phone flashes blinded her. Someone threw punch on her. Valentina ran for the exit, tripping over her now-ruined dress, tears mixing with cheap mascara streaming down her cheeks. Behind her, the party went on like nothing happened. That night, sitting on her bathroom floor while her mom pounded on the door asking what happened, Valentina made a decision. She wouldn't cry anymore. She wouldn't let them define her. And someday, somehow, she'd prove to all of them that they were wrong. What nobody at that school knew was that the girl bussing tables had a gift no fortune could buy, an extraordinary mind for numbers and patterns. While serving coffee, Valentina studied. While others partied, she learned to code. While they called her a loser, she silently built the foundation of something that would change everything. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday in October, sent to the corporate email Valentina used exclusively for business. Funny they found me here, she thought as she read the message decorated with gold graphics and elegant typography. Someone had done their homework, just not enough. The 10-year reunion for San Rafael Institute would be held at La Reserva Golf Club, one of Andalusia's most exclusive venues. Gala dinner, formal dress code, a chance to reconnect with old friends and celebrate everyone's achievements. The message included a personal note from Patricia Montalvo. Now Patricia de Castillo after marrying Rodrigo, expressing how much she hoped to see her and catch up. Valentina smiled reading those words. A smile that held no warmth. She knew exactly why they'd invited her. She'd followed her former classmates on social media for years, not out of nostalgia, but pure anthropological curiosity. Patricia had become a luxury lifestyle influencer with 2 million followers, married to Rodrigo, who now managed the family business with mediocre results, according to the financial reports Valentina had reviewed. The friend group was still intact, same faces, same attitudes, same need to feel superior. And they needed someone to look down on. They needed the loser to remind themselves they were winners. What Patricia and her crew didn't know. What nobody outside very select business circles knew, was who Valentina Ruiz really was now. The first years after high school had been tough. Valentina landed a full scholarship to study computer engineering at MIT, which was already extraordinary, but it was what she did next that changed everything. At 23, while working at a Silicon Valley startup, she developed an AI algorithm that revolutionized how companies analyze consumer data. At 25, she founded her own company. At 27, she turned down a $500 million buyout offer from Google because she knew she was worth more. Now, at 28, Valentina was CEO of Neurotech, a company valued at €800 million, operating from Madrid with offices in New York, London, and Singapore. She lived in a penthouse in Madrid's exclusive Salamanca district. She owned a Porsche she almost never used, preferring her chauffeur drive her so she could work in the back seat. Her name regularly appeared on lists of Europe's most influential women in tech. But Valentina had been careful with her public image. She gave few interviews, had no personal social media, and the rare photos of her were corporate and formal, hair pulled back, sober suits revealing nothing. The girl with thick glasses and flea market clothes had vanished, and no one who'd known her then would recognize her now. For 3 days, Valentina considered ignoring the invitation. She had better things to do, important meetings, decisions affecting thousands of employees. But something inside her, that part that still remembered the taste of punch mixed with tears, that part that had sworn not to forget, told her this was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. Not for revenge, she told herself, not exactly, but to close a chapter. To prove not to them, but to herself, that she'd left behind the scared girl running through high school hallways. She called her assistant and gave precise instructions. She wanted the most stunning dress they could find, something from an exclusive designer that screamed success without saying a word. She wanted jewelry, but subtle, elegant, the kind only people with real money would recognize. And she wanted to arrive in a way no one would ever forget. The helicopter was her idea. Maybe it was overkill, maybe it was petty, but after years of using the service entrance, Valentina wanted to make an entrance that made clear the rules had changed. La Reserva Golf Club gleamed under the sunset lights as the helicopter began its descent. From above, Valentina could see the colonial mansion serving as the clubhouse, torchlit gardens, tables set on the terrace where tiny figures in colored dresses and dark suits held glasses and chatted. They looked so small from up there. So insignificant. The pilot informed her they were about to land. Valentina gave herself one last look in the compact mirror from her handbag. The reflection staring back had nothing to do with the teenager who'd fled crying from prom. Her face had lost its childhood roundness, revealing sharp cheekbones and a defined jawline. Her eyes, now free from thick glasses thanks to laser surgery, shone with a confidence she'd taken years to build. Her brown hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, 3 hours' work at Madrid's best salon. The dress was a Valentino masterpiece, pure white, with a neckline that suggested without revealing and a side slit showing legs toned by years of yoga and personal training. Around her neck, a diamond necklace once owned by an Italian duchess. On her feet, Jimmy Choo heels that brought her to 5 feet 9 inches. Everything about her screamed power, elegance, success. The helicopter touched down, and the blades began slowing. Through the window, Valentina watched guests gather at the golf course edge, moving away from tables to see what was happening. She recognized some faces, even from a distance. Time had changed them, but not that much. She took a deep breath. This was the moment. Enjoying the story? Hit like and subscribe to the channel. We're continuing now. The door opened, and Valentina descended with the grace of someone used to being the center of attention. Wind from the still spinning blades whipped her hair cinematically as she walked toward the crowd watching with expressions ranging from confusion to awe. No one recognized her, at first. She watched them exchange looks, whispering questions, trying to identify the mysterious woman who'd just arrived like a movie star at their modest gathering. Some women stared with barely hidden envy. Some men looked with an interest their wives immediately noticed. Patricia stood at the group's center as always. The years hadn't been as kind to her as her filtered Instagram photos suggested. She'd gained weight she tried to hide with a strategically draped dress. Lines around her eyes hinted at sleepless nights or too much sun. Beside her, Rodrigo held a whiskey glass with the vacant look of someone who'd rather be anywhere else. Valentina walked straight toward them. Every step calculated, every move designed to maximize impact. She stopped a meter from Patricia and smiled with perfectly rehearsed warmth. Patricia squinted, searching her memory. Then recognition hit like lightning. Her face cycled through expressions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, horror, and finally something trying to be a smile that landed as an awkward grimace. Silence rippled through the group like a wave. One by one, others began recognizing her. Shocked whispers, gasps. Someone dropped their glass. Valentina savored every second. She'd waited 10 years for this moment, and it was every bit as sweet as she'd imagined. During dinner, former classmates paraded over to greet Valentina. Each conversation followed the same pattern: initial disbelief, awkward questions, then the moment someone mentioned neurotech and faces shifted from condescension to forced respect. Some tried recalling moments of supposed friendship that never existed, but Valentina hadn't come to make friends. She'd come for something specific. After dessert, Patricia took the microphone to share anecdotes. She talked about wonderful years at San Rafael, eternal friendships. Not once did she mention the bullying or the cardboard crown-reading loser. When she asked if anyone else wanted to share, Valentina raised her hand. Absolute silence. Valentina walked to the stage with the calm of someone who's presented to billionaire investors. She thanked them for the invitation and said her years at San Rafael had taught her that a person's worth isn't measured by their last name, that some people's cruelty can become motivation, and that the sweetest success is the one you build yourself while those who looked down on you weren't paying attention. Faces reflected discomfort. Patricia had lost all color. Then Valentina pulled out her phone and projected an image, the bankruptcy report for Montalvo Hotels, dated 6 months earlier. Patricia shot up, panic in her eyes. Valentina explained that 3 months ago, an investment group had acquired Montalvo Hotels' debt, preventing the family from losing everything. What no one knew was who stood behind it. Her. Neurotech had bought the debt. Valentina now owned everything the Montalvo family had built. The silence was so deep you could hear accelerated heartbeats. What followed was chaos. Patricia collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Rodrigo tried confronting Valentina, demanding to know what she wanted, if she'd come to destroy them, if this was all elaborate revenge. Some guests left, uncomfortable with the drama. Others stayed, fascinated by the spectacle of seeing the former queen dethroned. Valentina waited for the noise to settle. Then she explained what had really happened, and why. 6 months earlier, her analysis team had identified Montalvo Hotels as a potential acquisition target. Pure coincidence, an algorithm hunting investment opportunities. When Valentina saw the name, her first reaction was to let the company sink. Poetic justice, she thought, the family who raised her tormentor losing everything while she prospered. But then she dug deeper. She discovered the company employed over 2,000 people, families who'd lose their jobs if the hotels closed. She discovered Patricia's father, the man who built the empire, was fighting terminal cancer, and bankruptcy stress was worsening his condition. She discovered Patricia, beneath all her arrogance and cruelty, was desperate to save the only thing left of her father. And Valentina made a decision that surprised even herself. She bought the debt, not to destroy them, but to save them. She restructured the loans, gave the company time to recover, brought in consultants implementing changes restoring profitability. She didn't do it for Patricia or Rodrigo. She did it because she'd learned something in those 10 years building her empire. Real power isn't in destroying those who hurt you, but in becoming someone who can choose to be better than them. Patricia stared at her with an expression Valentina had never seen on her face, genuine vulnerability. For the first time, no masks, no performances, just a woman facing the reality that her worst enemy had been her savior. Valentina stepped off the stage and walked to Patricia. She stopped in front of her and, before everyone's astonished eyes, extended her hand. She wasn't asking for an apology, she clarified, that was something Patricia would have to work on herself. But she offered something better, a second chance, for the company, for her family, for herself. Patricia stared at the outstretched hand for long seconds. Tears still streamed down her face, ruining expensive makeup. Then, slowly, she took Valentina's hand. A year after that reunion, La Reserva Golf Club once again hosted an event, but this one was very different. No mocking posters, no cardboard crowns. Just white flowers, soft music, and an energy of genuine celebration. Valentina stood on the terrace watching guests arrive. She wasn't wearing white this time, but an elegant navy suit reflecting her personal style, powerful yet accessible, elegant yet practical. Beside her, her mother smiled with pride, the same woman who'd worked her whole life in a cafe, now welcomed as guest of honor at the coast's most exclusive club. The occasion was the inauguration of the Valentina Ruiz Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to providing scholarships and support for students from humble families facing discrimination in privileged educational environments. The program included not just financial aid, but mentorship, psychological support, and a network of former scholarship recipients who understood exactly what it meant to be the outsider in a world of inherited privilege. Patricia Montalvo was among the guests, though she no longer used the Castillo name. Her marriage to Rodrigo hadn't survived the financial crisis or that night's revelations, but something else had survived, an improbable friendship born from an extended hand. The two women had met several times throughout the year. Difficult conversations at first, filled with awkward silences and festering old wounds. Patricia had cried, apologized, tried to explain without justifying her teenage cruelty. Valentina had listened, processed, forgiven, not because Patricia deserved it, but because she herself needed freedom from resentment's weight. Patricia's father had died 3 months earlier, but he'd lived to see his company reborn. The last time Valentina visited him in the hospital, he'd taken her hand with his weak grip and thanked her, not just for saving the family business, but for giving his daughter the chance to become someone better. Patricia now worked at Montalvo Hotels as Director of Social Responsibility, a position she'd proposed herself and Valentina had supported. Ironic, she sometimes thought, how life turns. The girl who'd been her tormentor now spent her days ensuring the company's most vulnerable employees received fair treatment and growth opportunities. Valentina took the microphone for the foundation's inaugural speech. She scanned the audience. A mix of businesspeople, politicians, former San Rafael classmates, and the first 50 scholarship recipients receiving program support. Her eyes met her mother's, silently crying in the front row. She spoke of her story, the difficult years, the cardboard crown still kept in a box in her office as reminder of how far she'd come. She spoke of vengeance's temptation and why she'd chosen a different path. She spoke of second chances and how true success isn't measured in millions of euros or helicopters, but in the lives you touch and transform. When she finished, applause thundered, but for Valentina, the sweetest sound was the silence that followed, that moment of connection when she knew her message had reached where it needed to go. That night, after the last guests left, Valentina walked alone across the golf course. She slipped off her heels and felt cool grass beneath her feet. She looked at the stars, the same stars she'd watched from her tiny apartment window above the cafe when dreaming of a different future. She'd done it. Not just business success, not just public vindication, but something more important. She'd broken the cycle. She'd turned pain into purpose, humiliation into humility, desire for revenge into capacity for forgiveness. The girl who bussed tables had arrived by helicopter, not to prove she'd won, but to show that winning wasn't the point. The point was who you became along the way. And Valentina Ruiz had become exactly the person she always wanted to be, someone who used her power to lift others instead of crushing them. As she walked back toward the celebration lights, she smiled. Not the calculated smile she'd practiced for the reunion a year ago, but a genuine, free smile, the smile of someone who'd finally found peace with her past and excitement for her future. Because the best stories don't end with revenge. They end with transformation. And this one, the story of the loser who arrived by helicopter, was just beginning. If this story made you believe that happy endings are built by ourselves, drop a heart below to let me know. And if you really want to support stories like this that remind us everyone deserves second chances, you can leave a heartfelt thank you through the super thanks button below. Every gesture counts, just like the hand Valentina extended to someone who least deserved it, because you chose to stay until the end, and that makes you as extraordinary as this story's protagonist.